So let us now do the categorization of fundamental rights, and then we'll see the significance of fundamental rights. Before moving on to the actual rights, it is very important to do these background things. We have already done the introduction and we have already done the features of the rights. Now we'll try to classify the fundamental rights. First, and I will try to do that, on the several bases, not just one basis, several bases of classification. First basis of classification we can do as per what is given in the constitution. So as per what is given in the constitution, you know that you have 6 fundamental rights, okay? And you know that there are like right to equality, freedom, etc., which I'll just show you. So as you can see here, fundamental rights as classified by the constitution into 6 major categories are: first, articles 14 to 18. Now you have to remember these, there is no other choice for that, okay? So articles 14 to 18 are talking about the right to equality. So within that we again have broader classifications, which I'm not going to read right now because anyways we are going to do in detail. So just now read the broader classification, okay? Then you will have right to freedom from articles 19 to 22. So these are the separate rights which are given. Then you have the right against exploitation, articles 23 and 24. Then you have the right to freedom of religion, articles 25 to 28. Then articles 29 to 30, cultural and educational rights. And 30 के बाद why it is 32? Because 31 was about property. तो राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी अब ख़त्म हो चुका है, और जब एक्सेप्शंस आए 31, 31B, 31C, तो ये तो वैसे भी एक्सेप्शंस हैं, दीज आर नॉट द फंडामेंटल राइट्स, ठीक है. देन राइट टू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रेमेडीज, आर्टिकल 32. सो दिस लिस्ट इज़ व्हाट यू विल हैव टू रिमेंबर वेरी वेरी क्लियरली एंड प्रिसाइसली, लाइक यू कैन सी हियर. ये आपके बुक में दिया हुआ है, ठीक है. प्रॉपर्टी हट गई बाद में, and the remaining ones are the fundamental rights. So that is one major classification that you can do. Second classification अगर हम बात करते हैं, so that will be on the basis of that these rights are available to whom, ठीक है. इस basis पे जो है ये rights हमें पता चलेंगी. Categorization available to whom मतलब as I said, there are certain rights which are available only to the citizens. There are certain rights which are available to all, definitely except the enemy aliens. So that includes the other foreigners also. So within this category, the examples, I'm just writing the article number because as I said, the details are to be done when we'll do those rights, but I'll show you the content, at least the headings of all of these rights, okay? So article 15, 16, 19, 29 and 30 are only for the citizens, and remaining articles में 14, 20, 21, 21A, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 and 28. So basically in short, if you want to write, so article 14 and then 20 से 28, ठीक है. So these are for all except the enemy aliens. Now let us see in the book only, you would see that it has been given, ठीक है. They have given you a whole table जहाँ पे इन्होंने आपको बताया है which are those rights. For example, this is that one, fundamental rights of foreigners also. So certain fundamental rights available only to the citizens and not to the foreigners. आपको मैंने बताया there are 5 rights in this, 15, 16, 19, there is some mistake, I think 21 here is also given. So I think in the digital print of the book there is something wrong, because in the original book, the hard copy that is there, I think it's already correctly given. So do not get confused by this. This is not right. It should be 29 and 30 only, the table that I've given you, 15, 16, 19, 29, 30. And just to prove this, that this is wrong, because it is for all the persons, and ठीक है, यहाँ पे ये सही दिया हुआ है, but not in this table. So for all the persons, if you see the content of 21 directly, you can see no person shall be deprived of life, etc. So this is for all the persons. So let's see, एक बार हम subject matter देख लेते हैं सारे rights का, ठीक है, so that you are just familiar with the language and it becomes easier for you to see the headings. तो आपको क्या क्या भी बताया मैंने, 15 firstly. So 15 क्या है, Prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. So this is only for the citizens. Then another right that I've told you was 16, equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. This is also for only the citizens. Then when you will see 19, this is protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, etc. This is also only for the citizens. Then you have 29, protection of interest of minorities, only for the citizens, and rights of minorities to establish and administer the educational institutions, only for the citizens. ठीक है. उसके अलावा जो आपको मैंने बताया जैसे 14, इक्वालिटी बिफोर लॉ, दिस इज़ फॉर एवरीबडी. इन दोनों के लिए ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, बिकॉज यू नो दीज आर, अभी जैसे हम पढ़ेंगे आगे आपको समझ में आ जाएगा कि दीज आर अबाउट कि ये लॉ से ही इन्फोर्स होगा, और अभी इसको लेके कोई कैटेगरी नहीं है. देन 20 हो गया, 21 हो गया, and remaining till all of these, they are available to all persons. ठीक है. So this was the third category. Just remember this content here, 14 and then 20 से 28, and here 15, 16, 19, 29 and 30. So I think this would do your second classification. Let's move on to see the third set of probable classifications that we can see. That connotation है ना, वर्डिंग जो आपको नेगेटिव पॉजिटिव, इफ़ यू रिमेंबर फीचर्स में बात की थी ना, सम आर नेगेटिवली वर्डेड एंड सम आर पॉजिटिवली वर्डेड. तो अगर जैसे हम नेगेटिव की बात करते हैं, सो दे आर पुटिंग प्रोहिबिशंस ऑन द स्टेट. सो यू कैन हैव द लिस्ट नोटेड एज आई टोल्ड. हम डिटेल तब करेंगे व्हेन वी विल सी द आर्टिकल्स. 14, देन 15 का क्लॉज 1, 16 का 2, 18 का 1, 20, 22 का 1 एंड 28 का 1. And positively worded जो हैं, so we have like giving the you can say privilege. So 25, 29, 1, 31. ठीक है. So these are certain lists. Next category would be your extent of limitations. Ab extent of limitations, so you know that fundamental rights are imposing limitations on the actions of the state, executive, legislature वगैरह. So in this category also we can have different subcategories. For example, first will be against executive but not against legislature. So you have, for example, Article 21. Why do we say Article 21 for that matter? Read the heading of that. It says protection of life and personal liberty. Okay, I think I'll have to show you the details of it. No worries, I'll just do that. So if we see here, it says no person shall be deprived of his life or liberty except according to procedure established by law. Because here it is said that except, so if the procedure which is established by law is being followed. See, a law will have a procedure to be followed. So a law which has established certain procedure, if that is followed, in that case somebody can be deprived of his life and personal liberty, but otherwise cannot. So इसका मतलब आप यहाँ पर legislature को क्या कर रहे हो, एक exemption दे रहे हो. So there are certain rights. ठीक है. Yeah. See, overall जैसा आपको मैंने बोला, overall the idea has been built on that we will have to give protection to the citizens from the arbitrary action of both the executive and legislature. But then in every category you will have certain exceptions, right? So this is one of those exceptions. Otherwise in general it is about both executive. The intent is that, but there are certain exceptions. So इसका क्या connotation है, significance है, ये जब हम उसकी detail को करेंगे तब करेंगे. अभी we have just seen the wordings of it, right? Okay. Then another category could be absolute limitation upon legislative power. ठीक है. तो अब इसमें क्या हो जाएगा, इतना हम legislation पे restriction लगा देंगे that the legislature will not be able to regulate the exercise of such rights. So there are certain examples, 15, 17, 18, 20, 24. क्या क्या हैं हम देखेंगे बाद में. Another is a right. Example 19. 19 is about all the freedoms. ठीक है. So if you'll see here, 19 is about all these freedoms: speech, expression, assemble, association, movement, residing, etc., etc., profession, etc. ठीक है. So this is all these you would say the freedoms. So in this case, this right that itself empowers the legislature to impose reasonable restrictions. We have talked about this word in the features class, that there are reasonable restrictions, and the word here reasonable, the courts are going to decide कि क्या reasonable है क्या नहीं है. ठीक है. So what have we written? That the rights that itself empowers the legislature to impose reasonable restrictions upon their exercise in public interest. मतलब कि ये जो राइट्स हैं उनका जो एक्सरसाइज होगा इन द पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट, उस केस में लेजिस्लेचर को कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ही, यानी ये राइट खुद ही पावर दे रहा है दैट दे कैन इम्पोज सर्टेन रीजनेबल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस. जस्ट टू शो यू रफली इफ़ यू सी, तो 19 के ना फर्स्ट क्लॉज में इट इज़ गिवन अबाउट द राइट्स, ठीक है, फ्रीडम एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. देन फ्रॉम द सेकेंड क्लॉज ऑनवर्ड्स यू विल सी दैट दे आर पुटिंग रेस्ट्रिक्शंस. फॉर एग्जाम्पल दे आर टेलिंग दैट नथिंग इन दिस सब क्लॉज, मतलब एक के लिए ये है, फिर सेकेंड वाले के लिए ये है, फिर थर्ड वाले के लिए अगला है, फोर्थ के लिए अगला है. दिस इज़ हाउ दे हैव गिवन. ओके, so let's say this first is for this one, speech and expression. So they are telling nothing in this shall affect the operation of any law or prevent the state from making any law. So it is giving the power to the legislature, ठीक है, so far as the law imposes reasonable restriction, and you will come across this in everywhere, ठीक है, reasonable restriction, then reasonable restriction, then reasonable restriction, reasonable restriction. So here the idea of reasonable restriction is that we are putting restriction, the legislature is getting the power to put restriction, and that to reasonable. ठीक है, तो रीजनेबल मतलब कुछ रीजन्स हैं, कुछ ज़रूरी चीज़ ऐसी हैं जिससे, अब जैसे क्या है, अंडरस्टैंड दिस, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन. सो यू हैव गॉट राइट टू से वट एवर यू वॉन्ट एंड एक्सप्रेस हाउ एवर यू वॉन्ट टू एक्सप्रेस योर सेल्फ. यू वॉन्ट टू राइट, यू वॉन्ट टू say something, and you want to create a movie out of it or whatever, but your freedom should not infringe somebody else's freedom, because everybody has the freedom of speech and expression then in that manner. So your right shouldn't hinder another's right, therefore we need restrictive. Similarly goes for assembly. So you cannot just randomly go and assemble in any area saying this is my fundamental right. What about if you're curbing somebody else's freedom there of any sort? Then what about forming association, moving freely? You will move anywhere irrespective of any boundary, and then you will say that this is my fundamental right. But then what about the others whose fundamental right you might be hindering in that manner? Therefore, let's say for speech and expression, the reasonable restrictions are catering to sovereignty, integrity of India, security of the state. अब मान लीजिए आपके पास स्टेट का कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन है, मतलब देश से रिलेटेड कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन है, एंड यू रिवीलिंग इट इन पब्लिक एंड इट इज़ रीचिंग टू योर एनिमीज, तो यू कैन नॉट से ना दैट आई हैव फंडामेंटल राइट्स. Similarly, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency, morality, very important. You cannot just go and abuse in public randomly. Relation to contempt of court, defamation, incitement to offense. So similarly, every other article has, or every other freedom has different grounds. These are called as grounds. जैसे यहाँ पर public order, morality है, interest of sovereignty, integrity है. So these are called as grounds of reasonable restriction. So in this we have seen there are 3 categories which you can separately categorize. Moving on to certain other possible categories, that what about these rights as guarantee to the citizens against the state? So here you will see that as such numbers, यहाँ पे हम क्या ही बात करेंगे, it is basically about that all the fundamental rights are guarantee against the state. ठीक है, so if they are violated by, अच्छा, then the question is what about if they are violated by any individual? If they are violated by any individual, then just the normal legal remedies would follow. However, there are certain rights which are guarantee against state and private individual. तो इसमें we have examples like Article 15(2), 17, 18 का 3(4), Article 23, 24 etc. For example, अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो लेट्स से अगर मैं आपको एक आर्टिकल दिखाऊँ, जैसे ये 17 है, 17 इज़ देयर, ठीक है. तो अब इसमें क्या है, अबॉलिशन ऑफ अनटचेबिलिटी. सो दैट इज़ प्रिटी ऑब्वियस ना कि अनटचेबिलिटी की बात कर रहे हैं तो स्टेट, इफ़ द स्टेट इज़ डूइंग अनटचेब लाइक प्रैक्टिसिंग, तो वो तो अगेंस्ट होंगे ही, बट इफ़ एनी इंडिविजुअल इज ऑल्सो डूइंग दैट वुड ऑल्सो नॉट बी कंसिडर्ड एक्सेप्टेड. Therefore, this is said that this is available against the individual. ठीक है. Similarly, you have other rights. I have given you the notings. When we'll do the details, we can do about it. ठीक है. It will be easier for us. And then there could be certain fundamental rights which are actually this has the same category. For example, this इसको enforce करने के लिए you would need a law. They are not self executed. ठीक है. But there are other rights जो कि self execute. अब जैसे कि हम बोल रहे हैं equality before law, तो ठीक है, ये तो ऑब्वियस है, इसके लिए कोई लॉ बनाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. बट अनटचेबिलिटी को अबॉलिश करने के लिए यू नीड टू मेक अ लॉ, एंड देयरफॉर दीज आर नॉट सेल्फ एग्जीक्यूटेड. उसको एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए यू नीड अ लॉ टू बी प्रेजेंट. सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द प्रोबेबल कैटेगरीज विच वी कुड हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट. मूविंग ऑन टू सी द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स. ठीक है, सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स. अब इस पर हम बात करते हैं. सो दैट इज़ प्रिटी ऑब्वियस. नाउ इवन इफ यू डोंट नो द डिटेल्स ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स, बट यू नो द बेसिक्स ऑफ इट, द फीचर्स, एवरीथिंग, एंड दैट शुड बी सफिशिएंट टू अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट द सिग्निफिकेंस. फर्स्ट, दैट दे आर द बेडरॉक ऑफ डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम इन इंडिया. ठीक है, इसीलिए हमने बोला था दैट वी आर एबल टू प्रिवेंट द डिस्पोटिक रूल. दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर द मटेरियल एंड मोरल प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ मैन. ठीक है, मटेरियल एज इन रिलेटेड टू योर प्रॉपर्टी एटसेट्रा. ऑल्दो राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी राइट नाउ इज़ नॉट अ फंडामेंटल राइट, बट इन अदर सेंसेस. एंड मोरल प्रोटेक्शन, तो अगर जैसा अनटचेबिलिटी वाला हो गया, कुछ आपके साथ खराब हो रहा है, तो यू गेट दैट प्रोटेक्शन. दे आर द फॉर्मिडेबल बुलवर्क ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल लिबर्टी. In the sense, you can say, if you want to replace this word, you can say something very strong foundation. ठीक है, or something, let's say, which is giving you something very concrete. So individual liberty आपकी ध्यान में रखी जा रही हो. You have the whole article 19 related to that freedom. Then facilitating establishment of rule of law in India. ठीक है, तो ये अभी हम जो आर्टिकल 14 करेंगे इसकी बात होगी. Protect the interest of minorities and weaker section. We have many articles covering this point. Strengthening the secular fabric, again many articles covering. religion वाले जो articles उस पे आएंगे तो बात करेंगे. Check the absoluteness of the government authority. चाहे legislature हो चाहे executive की, वो कुछ भी ऐसे arbitrary absolute में आके ना करें. Foundation stone of social equality and justice. ठीक है, ensure dignity and respect of individual and participation of people in the political administration process. So these are certain significance that we can attach with the fundamental rights. In the next video, we will move ahead and see the other dimensions, the other details related to fundamental rights. आपको मैंने बताया था, there are certain articles which are dealing not with fundamental rights but about fundamental rights. So we have these articles 12, 13, 33, 34, 35. This is the subject matter for our next video. I hope you are enjoying the session. I hope you are enjoying the series that we are doing. I mean the sequence in which I'm putting things in front of you, because there is a reason, deliberate reason of doing this. So in case you are doing that, please do comment and let me know your feedback. Thank you so much. Take care till then. Bye bye.